family about what happened at that restaurant. Ryan, I'm sure. Love to hear that story. The look of absolute panic on his face as his mom started bringing out the food worth every second of anxiety it took to get there. Game on second update. I'm finally ready to share what happened at Ryan's birthday dinner. Sorry for the delay. I needed a mental health day after all this drama, plus my Wi-Fi has been acting up because my neighbor borrowed my password and apparently downloaded the entire internet. Where did we leave off right? Me sitting at the dinner table with Ryan's family, while he panicked about what I might say. So there I was surrounded by Ryan's family. His parents, Tina and Ralph, his sister Kayla, his grandma and two cousins whose names I always mix up. The table was loaded with Tina's famous potatoes I've literally dreamed about, and a fancy salad that nobody was going to eat, but everyone would pretend to appreciate. The first 20 minutes were straight up awkward. Ryan kept trying to control the conversation while shooting me these warning glances. I just smiled and passed the bread rolls, enjoying the way his left eye twitched every time I opened my mouth. Petty, maybe satisfying, absolutely? Tina kept the conversation flowing. Bless her, she asked about my family, my job, the usual small talk when she mentioned how proud they all were of Ryan's big promotion. I nearly choked on my water. I glanced at Ryan, whose face had gone the exact shade of the beats on the table. Ryan jumped in, talking about how his team was crushing their targets and how his boss was practically grooming him for senior management. I just nodded along, watching him dig himself deeper with each word. Ralph, who has always been the quiet type, suddenly asked Ryan about the Johnson account. Apparently Ryan had been telling his dad about some huge deal he was supposedly leading. Ryan Ace. Answer was so vague it could have been a horoscope, something about strategic pivots and leveraging core competency that literally meant nothing. His sister Kayla caught my eye across the table. She has always been the skeptical one in the family, the type to Google facts during arguments and call people out on their BS. She raised an eyebrow at me like, is he for real right now? That's when Tina brought up the future. She asked us about our big news and whether it had anything to do with us taking the next step. Ryan nearly dropped his fork and mumbled something about it not being the right time to discuss it. His grandma, who has zero filter and is my absolute favorite person in his family, cuts in with, so are you two moving in together, or what? Because Ryan said you were looking at apartments together again. News to me. The furthest we'd have gotten in that conversation was me once saying, maybe we should think about combining our Netflix accounts to save money. Ryan tried steering the conversation back to himself, talking about how his boss had given him a company card for business expenses. I couldn't help myself. I asked what kind of expenses he was authorized to approve. He stammered something about client dinners and team outings. That's when I casually mentioned, oh, speaking of dinners, Ryan took me to this amazing restaurant last week. What was it called again, honey? The one where you met up with Leonard and Pablo? The color drained from his face faster than my phone battery on TikTok. Seriously. My phone can't handle more than 20 minutes of scrolling before unlived. Anyone else? Before he could respond, the